it's a special edition of the Blue White Breakdown, a very, very special edition. This is like when you had a very, very special edition of Webster, where there was a moral. No, we have a guest here because Bo Flo's not here. He's on vacation, I believe. So I decided to get a guest, and who better to be a guest than our old pal, Joe Moorhead. Joe Moorhead live from Eugene, Oregon, where he's going to be for how long are you going to be out there? 10 days, 10 more days?
Take back off to Akron on January 2nd.
All right. And he's been named the head coach for the Akron Zips. And he knows the territory. We're going to get to that later. I mean, Eugene to Akron, we've got to talk about that. But that'll be something else. I would venture that the years 2016 and 2017, I don't want to like wallow in the past, but I mean, Penn State fans will remember that. And 5 years ago this week, you were prepping for the Rose Bowl after what can only be described as a memorable season. I think that season is going to go down. It's the most memorable season of my sports writing career covering Penn State football, and I've done over 30 years. I'm curious, it's been 5 years removed now. What do you pick out? The mind always does strange things in retrospects and picks out certain moments. What do you think about when you think about that year? Because you guys are going a mile a minute every year, and you rarely ever look back, I imagine.
Yeah, the first thing I recall is, leaving my alma mater to take the leap of faith and, join Coach Franklin and the staff. And, we had a ton of success at Fordham, and I think I had been extended at that point to 2023 and, got the call from Coach Franklin when the opening came about. And, the rest, I guess, is history. But, what I remember from the beginning of that season, unless I'm mistaken, I think were we 2-2 to
2-2, and what I always pick out is the Minnesota game. The Minnesota game in the third quarter. That was sort of a threshold, that moment. The Minnesota game. You think of the third quarter of the Minnesota game, at that point, you really didn't have the offense running. Nothing was going very well. Do you remember any moment in that game where you had doubt, or in the season when you had doubt? Because you're 2-2, you're down to Minnesota. I think it was 17-7 in the third quarter. Yeah,
we had beaten Kent to start, and then we had the heartbreaker down at Pitt. Which was certainly a great game aside from the ending. And then the loss to Michigan, which was bad, and then certainly we were on the ropes, man. And I remember, I don't want to say cascade of boos, but there were certainly more than a smattering as we came off the field in the second quarter. And,
you remember that, huh? You remember the boos?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know if coaches ever really heard that kind of stuff. I thought maybe you were in your tunnel.
If you say you don't hear it, you're probably not telling the truth. I mean, you have ears, and you're running off the field, so you may not want to internalize it, but you hear it. That's for certain. But
all right. So what was going through your mind right then? Do you wipe it away?
No, yeah. I mean, I think it's it comes with the territory, but at that point, you're going in the locker room and thinking, hey, what do we need to do to get this thing rolling and get some points on the board and get a win? And, I felt like we were moving the ball. We just weren't able to, turn the yards into points. And, we really needed that spark of that catalyst. And that play from Trace to Irv was that play. And then I remember a big conversion to Chris Godwin on that last drive where we tied it with the field goal. And then they were in 2-man. And Trace dropped back, and he ran and scrambled to get us into field goal range. And, then we kicked that thing and sent it into overtime.
Yeah, and that, as I recall, it seemed like you started letting Trace run keepers a little more in the second half, and then a lot more as the season went on. Is that wrong? Or that's the way my mind is doing tricks on this. Is that correct?
That's 100% accurate. We had run him a bit more in the in the Minnesota game, and then unless I'm mistaken, I believe Maryland was the next game.
Right.
And that's when we said, hey, we're going to go. We're gonna have both feet in the pool with this thing and really start running the ability. And I think we ran for a ton of yards in that game and threw it pretty efficiently and effectively. But that's when the run started right there.
Yeah, and were you reticent to run him maybe as much as you wanted because of his size, or what?
No, honestly, I think it was just. We were trying to figure out our identity, trying to figure out who we were as an offense. And, I think as you look at Trace and his entire body of work for, not much, just my 2 years there, but his entire time there, the guy just makes plays, you know what I mean? And whether it was by design or improvisation in the run game or the pass game, but when you add the element of quarterback run to your repertoire as an offensive coordinator, it really, and it's cliche, it forces the defense to defend every blade of grass. And you pick up a number in the run game, it helps the offensive line, it helps the tailbacks, and it really helps the pass game too. So, I guess I am, and everyone else is glad we kind of made that shift not shift in philosophy, but more of an emphasis in philosophy.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, of course, everyone knows about Saquon Barkley, pretty good weapon, and yet what is remarkable, and I don't think got enough pub. I kind of noticed it at the end of that season. I looked up some obscure stats on, I think teamrankings.com was the only place that had this kind of stuff. And there was a stat for McSorley that year for yards per completion. And he was among the historic leaders in FBS. And I believe he still is in the top 5. He's along names like Jim McMahon and Bryce Petty and Ty Detmer, I think, are the guys right around him. He was really good at knowing how to not eject completely from the pocket, but keep his eyes downfield. Did you teach him that? Was it intrinsic or what?
I think there's a little bit of both. I think a quarterback has to have that feel, you know what I mean, and the ability to extend plays without, maybe necessarily scrambling. And the term, that Trace and I always use and we use to this day is feel the rush, see the coverage, and when we don't want to get your eyes down, you want to keep your eyes upfield. So he had that innate ability to kind of stay calm when the thing may have been breaking down around him, but still keep his eyes upfield. So, that's something I think you can emphasize. I think you could probably teach a little bit, but I think the quarterback has to have that. He has to have that in his DNA. Yeah,
because it's not fun getting hit. And some guys, they get PTSD, especially if they get hit too often. I don't know that you can teach that, can you, at all? I mean, there's bombs going off around you, and you can still keep your eyes down the field.
I think there's some – I don't know that necessarily – I think some guys do it a lot better than others. And I think there are guys that have the ability to withstand that constant barrage of pressure and kind of physicality that comes with playing the position. And there's some guys that wilt under it. And Trace was a guy that rose to the occasion. There's not, you're very fortunate to to have the ability to coach a guy like that in your career, he just has that it factor.
I don't know that there's been one play, and to speak about the other guy, I don't know that there's been one play in more than 3 decades of doing this that was more jaw-dropping than Barkley's 79-yard run in the Rose Bowl. Could you get I can't remember if you were in the sideline or up on the box.
I remember James punched me after the long one to go.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Did you know you were seeing something special from down there? Or did you have to see it on video later?
It looked special from the field, but you didn't gain an appreciation until you saw the coach's copy. I mean, it was a tackle wrap play, and USC was a double mug operation where they would get into 2-3 techniques and walk the inside linebackers down. So we had a little bit of an adjustment on that play where we would it was a bunch of down blocks and a kick out block on the end. And I'm pretty sure the end spilled it instead of Saquon getting up inside of it. and it got out to the edge, and
that play was designed to go inside, wasn't it?
Designed to go inside the tackle. So a bunch of down blocks. The puller was supposed to kick out the end, and we wanted it to get north-south, and the thing spilled. And I'm pretty sure it was Deshaun Hamilton who had a pretty good block on the slot, and then the safety is the first one he made miss. Kind of guy took an inside-out angle. Saquon stuck him to the outside and avoided him inside, and then it was just a procession of missed tackles.
I know. I went back and I probably watched that play more times than I've watched any single play that I covered in person, because there's one point in that where there's 4 Trojans around him in every position, 2 right behind him who could catch him, supposedly, 2 in front of him who could hit him, and they all miss. He makes them all miss, which is something you just don't find. I mean, it was an amazing run. I still get chills sometimes watching that and listening to Fowler and Herbie Anyways, the best specific moment at Penn State, and also, I guess, coaches always obsess on failures. So what moments would you like to have back?
The wheel route to Saquon in the Big Ten championship game was a pretty special moment. And really, I don't want to say overlooked, but the first play out of the half where we threw the deep ball to Saeed to make it, I think that would have made it 28-21 at that point. We threw a post route and he caught it from the safety and scored. But certainly the wheel route to Saquon in the Big Ten championship game. The two that come to mind, because like you said, coaches obsess over failure sometimes more than we revel in success. The interception is actually 2 interceptions. The interception at the end of the Pitt game in 16, and then, I could probably tell you the interception at the end of the Pitt game in 16, the interception in the Rose Bowl game, where actually the play before, if you go back to the film, Michael Gesicki had the kid spun wide open for either an easy walk-in touchdown or at minimum a field goal, and we got a little bit of pressure on the inside. And Trace really didn't throw on time there. And then the next play was the pick. And then really not a single play, but a series of 3 plays. The 4-minute drive at the end of the Ohio State game in 17, where I believe we were still up a score, and we ended up going 3 and out. And those are 3 that really kind of come to mind as ones you wish you could have executed and called the game a little bit better.
Well, the keeper, McSorley, almost scored. And that would have put the game away. If you remember the play I'm talking about. I mean, he needed one guy to not be there, and I think he hit him at the 3. You end up kicking the field goal. You remember the play I'm talking about? Yeah. I mean, it was there. It's just it wasn't quite there. It wasn't a bad call. Now, 2 productive years at Oregon. But level with us, since you brought that up, was the win in Columbus not hugely satisfying? It had to be.
I mean, it was cathartic in a lot of ways. And it exercised those demons from the 17 game a little bit. And really the way the thing was playing out this past year, we were up, and then it was almost like, here we go again, because Coach Day and CJ started, making some plays, and the comeback started occurring, and this time we were able to put it away on that last drive, with a couple first downs, and then we punted them down inside the 5, and we were able to make the stop. So that's, as that's an almost impossible place to win, and against a phenomenal program.
And that crowd was quiet by the end. You kept gashing them on the same play. It looked like you kept getting on the edge for 12 and 15-yard runs for touchdowns. And it was remarkable. That was a very decorated defensive front, and you made them look bad.
Yeah, they were a bunch of All-Americans, I believe. If you look at the postseason team, a couple of the inside guys, one of the backers. That's a very, very good football team. And, it's just one of those days where you have you feel like you put a pretty good plan together, and the kids are confident in it. And I think the big thing, particularly, it is having some early success, which our kids did. And then we were able to just keep building on it. So that was, it was of the 2 years, that was a real cool win.
Now, coaches, the money is so crazy in coaching right now that I don't blame anybody for mobility, for transience, players or coaches, because everyone's got to take care of what they got to take care of. Players got to take care of their families. Coaches have to take care of their families. But you made a move here that looks to be like you gave up quite a bit of money to get back into head coaching, something you clearly must enjoy, running your own shop. Fordham, Mississippi State. Now, again, you want to do this. Why?
Yeah. And it wasn't just the money that I was making as a coordinator at Oregon, for the, 2 years prior to my dismissal at Mississippi State. I've had head coaching opportunities, you know what I mean? And the one thing that my family and I agreed upon was the next one that we took was going to meet a very specific set of criteria. And the first of those being what was best for our family. And, I had that, health scare earlier in the year. Both sets of parents are in Pittsburgh and encroaching on 80. And my oldest boy plays his football at Grove City, which is an hour and change away from Akron. So I know that there were a bunch of zeros, left on the table, but, to have the opportunity to come back home, be around family, and be at a place where we've won before, and all the ingredients are there for success, that played a major role in this decision.
Since you mentioned it, illuminate us a little bit about the health scare, because it really wasn't publicized that well.
Yeah, I mean, I really kind of haven't talked a ton about it. I mean, there was speculation anywhere from a broken ankle to a heart attack, which it wasn't. I mean, I had a ruptured diverticulitis, and had to go into the ER the morning of the game. And you're actually
explain what that is for people who might not know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's a ruptured abscess essentially in your colon, and they had to. They took me in for the CT scan, brought me back, and they said, "Hey, we got to get you into surgery." So
yeah, it's a pretty dire thing momentarily, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's acute.
It was a cut from just below my breastbone, past my belly button. They removed a foot of colon, sewed the ends together, and then 24 staples to close it up. So it was for a guy who had never spent a day in a hospital in his life. It went from, as they say, zero to 60 pretty quickly.
Never.
I'd never spent a night in the hospital. Nope.
How?
I don't know. Good question.
All right. But also, since you mentioned it, I'm from Ohio. I know what Akron is. It's my opinion that Northeast Ohio, Western PA, and the West Virginia Panhandle should be like one state. Am I wrong there? It's almost the same place, is it not?
It's all interconnected. I mean, the fabric of the communities, obviously it's changed a bit with technology and medicine and all those things that are, moving things forward. But at the end of the day, the heart and soul is, I mean, those are all blue collar communities that have been kind of built on, the steel industry, the tire industry, all those things. And, there's just a certain feel to all those places. It's, to me, very comforting.
Now, I can't even remember. Were you a Steelers fan or a Browns fan? Because you could have been either, actually, in that area. It's almost like the Eagles and well, go ahead.
100% Steelers.
All right. But you knew a bunch of Browns fans, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, if you go back, I mean, I'm quite a bit older than you are, but I mean, the Browns Steelers games were just acrimonious in the old days. They were crazy. They were violent, and those cities had a lot in common with each other. Back before you even remember, I mean, they used to play the games at Pitt Stadium and Municipal Stadium. The fields were mud. The weather was horrible, like routinely. What is the feeling of that rivalry, and do you still watch those games?
Yeah, as much as I can. I try to watch as many Steelers games as I can on TV, but. Yeah, I mean, you just go back to the Mike Websters, the Rocky Blyers, the Franco Harrises, the Terry Bradshaw, the Benny Cunningham, the Lynn Swan, the John Stallworth. We could do the same thing on defense, but there weren't many, if I can recall, 49-48 shootouts.
No.
There was a lot of 3 yards and lots of clouds of dust and mud in there, but but I always think that for the the bitterness of the rivalry and how much the teams competed, I always felt like there was, at the end of the day, a sense of mutual respect. You know what I mean?
Except after Turkey Jones on Terry Bradshaw. Now, come on.
Correct.
You can't con me. I mean, you were angry then, weren't you? Weren't you?
It had to be. I mean, if you weren't, you were wrong.
I mean, that was ugly. Can you imagine what they do to Joe Jones now if he did that?
Yeah,
I mean, he'd be
quite a hefty fine and suspension. I would imagine.
He'd be gone for life. Are you kidding? Now, what you're taking over here is a MAC program in today's football. We now all of a sudden we got Omicron. What's your situation with trying to run a program with all this coming down? It looks like coming down the chute is going to be like a year ago again. I mean, what are you facing here? You're running this program now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see where this thing evolves in the next month or so. So with the proliferation of the new variant, I went up a couple weeks ago and had my press conference and had a chance to meet with a bunch of people, and a lot of the kids were already home for break, so really had an abbreviated team meeting, more of an introduction than anything. So we get back on the 2nd as a staff, and then the team reports on the 9th and begin the semester on the 10th. So, yeah, you
must have contingency plans on top of contingencies for what you might have to do, right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a more of a ready, fire, aim situation because it's such a fluid situation that you can prepare, and I think that's one thing that this thing has taught us over the past, year plus here is the ability to be flexible and kind of change your plans, because it's something that is moving and evolving and mutating without much notice.
All right, final thing here, and I'll let you go because I know you've got plenty of prep work to do for the Zips. In your opinion, what are the keys to doing an effective James Franklin impersonation? And who did the best on your staff? There's got to be. You got to give it up at this point. It's 5 years later.
I can't think of the best one on the staff.
Players?
Who was was it Keegan Michael Key?
Yeah, but I'm talking about players or coaches who did it behind his back and then might be caught.
I'll have to go back. It wasn't.
No. I need to know now.
I'm trying to rack my brain and think. We did a good one.
All right. Well. Do you have keys to success in doing one yourself? Because I have my own.
What are the keys?
Well, I think you have to really work on your flat O's because he likes O words. Obviously, the opportunity. It's not a good optic. Ask me a question. Ask me like a reporter's question.
What did you feel about?
Tough question. You got to ask me a tough question.
Okay. Hey, why did you decide to go for a 2-point conversion there in that situation at the end of the game?
Yeah, we forgot to get into that. Yeah,
I know.
We were going to get into. Did you read that or not? You didn't have time, probably. All right. Joe, I understand why you asked the question. I know you got to ask that. I get it. But we thought we had a good play. We had a good play, and they made a better play. I think it's all on emphasis. And also, Joe, if he wants to throw you off, what he does is just, Joe, what kind of ornament is that behind you? He'll look at something and notice something in your picture or something, and then he tries to get you off the subject a little bit. I think it's a psychological technique from back in college. I don't know. You guys always seemed to like you had a fairly good working relationship, though, right? I mean, you could joke with each other, right? Did at any point did you have like my brother-in-law Fred Jackson used to run? They would have big arguments over whether to play Tom Brady or who was Lloyd Carr wanted. It was Drew Henson. Lloyd Carr wanted Drew Henson. Fred wanted to play Tom Brady, and they would have screaming matches. But then they were okay in 20 minutes afterward. Was that your relationship, or was it all even keel all the time?
No, it was even keeled, and I think Coach may have said this, or maybe I'm, hiring Coach Diaz to run. What James said when I took over is, hey, I'm hiring you to be the head coach of the offense. You know what I mean? Because I think with my head coaching experience and the success that we've had with the offensive system over the years, that James was in on every offensive staff meeting. He provided his input where he thought it was applicable, but there was never. I mean, in 2 years there was never a blow up, and a lot of that probably had to do. Obviously things were going well and we were having some success, but there was never a moment where it really came to anything but mutual respect.
Well, some people just like to go at it, and you don't take it personally. But you guys were both even keel all the time, huh?
Yeah, I think we probably had similar personalities in that regard.
You'd never get along with me. We'd be screaming at each other eventually. I'm like Bill O'Brien. That's why O'Brien and I got along.
I know Billy well. Yeah, I can see that.
At least until the end. Yeah, he liked the fact that he could rant to me. Okay, Joe, this has been fabulous. Thanks for coming by, and good luck with the Zips. We love having you closer by than you used to be. So thanks a lot for doing this.
Appreciate it, David.